You're walking down an empty street at night and the back of your neck starts to prickle. No one's there, you check, twice. But your body refuses to believe it and you pick up your pace anyway. You'd probably call this paranoia. The real answer is far stranger than that. That prickle isn't fear talking. It's a survival system older than humanity itself and it's still running. It never turned off because turning it off used to get you eaten. Why does your brain insist on detecting a watcher who isn't there? Why does an empty room sometimes feel occupied? Why do you instinctively glance up the second someone looks at you from across a crowded room before you've consciously noticed anything at all? The story starts not with humans but with something much older. The eye itself. For hundreds of millions of years, eyes have been the single most dangerous shape in nature. Two circles, side by side, facing forward. That's the universal signature of a predator. Herbivores have eyes on the sides of their heads, built for a wide field of view, scanning for danger from every angle. Predators have eyes on the front, built for depth perception and a killing strike. Your ancestors' nervous systems learned this lesson early and learned it permanently. You don't have to think about it, you just react to it. Now, researchers have found that the human brain has dedicated neural circuitry just for detecting gaze direction, separate from the circuitry that recognizes faces in general. Damage that circuitry, and a person can still recognize their own mother's face, yet lose the ability to tell whether she's looking at them or past them. That's how specialized this system is. It evolved to answer one question faster than conscious thought ever could. Is something looking at me right now? This detection doesn't even need your full attention to work. Your peripheral vision, the blurry edges of what you see without looking directly at it, is unusually good at picking up two dark dots arranged side by side. Sit in a crowded cafe with your eyes down at your phone, and some part of your visual system is still quietly scanning the room's edges for that exact pattern. The moment a stranger across the room looks your way, you feel it before you consciously register it, and only afterward do you glance up to confirm what some older part of you already knew. Your conscious mind likes to think it's in charge of noticing things. Most of the time, it's simply catching up. And here's the part that should unsettle you a little. This detection system doesn't wait for certainty. It fires on a hunch. A shadow shaped vaguely like two eyes. A pattern in the dark that could be a face. The sound of something shifting behind you that might be footsteps, might just be wind. Your brain treats all of these the same way it treats an actual predator, as a threat worth reacting to first and questioning later. So why would evolution build a system this jumpy, this willing to be wrong? Because being wrong was cheap. Being right just once saved your life. The psychologist Randolph Nesse has a name for this kind of biological overreaction. He calls it the smoke detector principle. A smoke detector that occasionally goes off when you're just making toast is annoying. A smoke detector that fails to go off during an actual fire is fatal. Evolution tunes your threat systems the same way a cheap smoke detector gets tuned, erring constantly on the side of false alarms, because the cost of one missed real threat outweighs 1,000 imaginary ones. Feeling watched when nothing is there isn't a glitch in your wiring. It's the system working exactly as it was designed to. Notice what this means about the structure of fear itself. It was never meant to be accurate. It was only ever meant to be cheap. A wasted jolt of adrenaline costs you a few uncomfortable seconds. A missed predator costs you everything. So natural selection didn't build you a finely calibrated threat detector. It built you a paranoid one, and paranoid, it turns out, is exactly what kept your bloodline alive long enough to produce you, but the feeling of being watched goes deeper than eyes and shadows. It reaches into something even stranger, your sense of other minds. The cognitive scientist Justin Barrett spent years studying why humans are so quick to sense intention behind ambiguous events, why a rustling bush feels less like wind and more like something deciding to move. He described the mind as carrying what he called a hyperactive agency detection device, a mental reflex that assumes agency first and rules it out only later, if it ever does at all. Hear a creak in an old house at night, and before you've consciously thought anything, some part of you has already asked the question. Not what made that sound, who? This reflex doesn't care whether the agent is real. It only cares about not missing one if it is. Think about what that meant for your ancestors. On open grassland in failing light, assuming a sound was just wind when it was actually a predator could end in death. Assuming wind was a predator cost nothing more than a racing heart and a wasted glance over the shoulder. Across thousands of generations, only one of those mistakes got people killed. So your nervous system inherited the comfortable error and quietly discarded the fatal one. In a sense, you are descended from the most paranoid branch of your family tree, and that paranoia is precisely why the line didn't end. So when you feel eyes on you in an empty parking garage or sense a presence in a dark hallway, you're not malfunctioning. You're running ancestral software on modern hardware inside an environment it was never built to handle. Here's where it gets even stranger. Does this system actually change how you behave, even when you know, rationally, that no one is watching? In 2006, a researcher named Melissa Bateson ran a quiet experiment in a university coffee room in the United Kingdom. Above the honesty box where staff paid for their drinks, she alternated a printed image each week. Some weeks a photograph of a pair of human eyes, other weeks a photograph of flowers. Nothing else changed, no announcement, no instructions, just an image taped to the wall. When the eyes were up, people paid nearly 3 times more into the honesty box than when the flowers were up. There was no actual person watching. Everyone involved almost certainly knew on a conscious level that a photograph cannot see anything at all. And yet the mere presence of 2 printed eyes was enough to shift real behavior week after week without anyone noticing they'd been influenced. Why would a flat image with no brain behind it change what people do with their own wallets? Because the part of you that detects being watched doesn't run through your rational mind first. It runs underneath it, fast and automatic, and your conscious thoughts arrive late to a decision that's already been made for you. You don't choose to feel watched, you simply discover that, somewhere beneath language, you already do. Bateson's experiment has since been repeated in different forms, in different countries, on different behaviors, and the pattern holds up again and again. Eyes on a sign near a bicycle rack reduce theft. Eyes on a poster near a litter bin reduce littering. None of these eyes blink, none of them follow you. None of them are connected to anything that could ever catch you. They are ink or pixels arranged in a familiar pattern, and that arrangement alone is enough to reach past your reasoning and tap directly into a much older, much less skeptical part of your mind. This is the strange machinery sitting underneath something you've felt your entire life, probably without ever questioning it. Stand near a security camera, even one you suspect might be fake, and you'll straighten your posture slightly. Sit in a room with a poster of a face staring outward and you'll behave a little better than you would completely alone. Open a laptop with a webcam light that might be on, and some old, primitive part of your brain quietly assumes someone could be looking back at you right now. None of this requires belief. It only requires a shape that resembles eyes. And this is where the ancient and the modern collide in a way that should make you a little uncomfortable. You don't live on open grassland anymore. You live in a world saturated with watching, real and simulated, almost every hour of every day. Every post you write online gets filtered, even slightly, through the sense that an audience is watching it form. Every video call carries a small dot in the corner of the screen that might mean someone is looking, even after you've muted yourself and turned away. Every open-plan office, every doorbell camera, every smart speaker with a softly blinking light is a modern descendant of that one ancestral question. Is something looking at me right now? Your hyperactive agency detector wasn't built for a world with billions of cameras and screens embedded in it. It was built for a world with maybe one set of eyes hidden in the grass, once every few weeks, where missing it meant death and noticing it meant nothing worse than a flinch. Now it fires constantly, in elevators, in empty offices late at night, in hotel rooms with mirrors angled the wrong way, because the world has been wallpapered with eye-shaped triggers it was never designed to filter out. Is it any wonder so many people report a constant, low-level feeling of being observed, even when they're completely alone? You're not imagining a flaw in yourself. You're feeling an ancient alarm system surrounded by a million more tripwires than it ever evolved to manage. And so the next time the hair rises on the back of your neck in an empty room, or you glance over your shoulder on a quiet street for no reason you can name, don't dismiss it as irrational. It's not irrational. It's ancestral. It's the same circuitry that once kept a small, vulnerable creature alive on a continent full of things that wanted to eat it, still running, still vigilant, still assuming the worst, because the worst, once, was usually true. You're not haunted by ghosts when you feel eyes that aren't there. You're haunted by your own ancestors, the ones who survived precisely because they couldn't afford not to look. And that's the strange reason your brain keeps watching for a watcher. Walk down an empty street tonight, and the prickle on the back of your neck won't belong to a stranger's eyes. It'll be the oldest, most loyal guard you've ever had, still standing post, long after the danger it was built for stopped existing at all.